everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 273 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I could not be more excited to continue sharing with you guys personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. Today, we are going to be talking about consumer spending, and specifically, we're going to be comparing consumer spending from 2020 and 2019 to consumer spending that is going on today in 2021, okay? Because I think that it's really interesting to know how we're spending money after a crisis, right? And are we spending more money in certain places? Are we spending less money in certain places? And where may we need to rein it in? And where we may need to, loosen the purse strings a little bit, okay? So we'll talk about all of that and about all the financial decisions that Americans are making today, 20 months in to a coronavirus pandemic that, is still not over. So what are we doing now that is different from a year and a half ago? So stick around for all that and more in today's episode. Before we get started though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just DM me on any of the major social media sites and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching sessions, and you and I can begin working together, pushing towards some long-term financial goals that we have for you, and then ultimately pushing you on towards long-term financial freedom, which is what I hope for every individual who is watching or listening to this show on a day-to-day basis. So I am not stating some end to the coronavirus pandemic. Obviously, we're dealing with things like the Delta variant now, and even though things really, kind of slowed down early on in the summer, the infection rate really picked back up in the late summer, July, and then now in August. But what about what we're doing with our money relative to the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic? Like, are we doing something different? Because we definitely made some changes when the pandemic originally hit. Okay, as I'll talk about here in a little while, the savings rate, and I've talked about the savings rate before, it spiked during the early days of the coronavirus pandemic back in April of 2020. It spiked, and we saw, 33% household savings rate. And, part of that was because we didn't have anywhere to go and spend it. All right. Everything was locked down. Everything was shut down. But that has quickly changed. And ultimately, our behavior has quickly changed. As the economy recovers and the market notches new highs, most people are ready to live it up. Okay. And this is no surprise. It's no surprise that, people really get tired of putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And people also don't want to play this game of, am I ever going to get to do something that I want to do again, right? Am I ever going to get to go on this trip? Am I ever going to get to buy this thing? So might as well do it while I can, right? Between dining out and taking trips, Americans are now spending an average of $765 more a month compared with last year when much of the country was shut down due to the coronavirus pandemic. This is according to MassMutual Consumer Spending and Savings Index. Young adults in particular are determined to make up for lost time. Millennials and Gen Z, who reported feeling the financial impact from the rise in reopenings and social gatherings, said they were shelling out $1,016 more a month on average than they did during the summer of 2020. MassMutual polled 1,000 U.S. adults from July 21st to July 28th. So if you're among the millennials and Gen Zs, you're spending $12,000 a year that you weren't spending last year. And if you're just, the average individual in this particular study, right, you're up there in the, $9,000 to $10,000 a year that you're spending extra that you weren't spending last year. And again, it's no surprise that people are going to want to do things. People are going to want to buy things that they couldn't purchase last year. They're going to want to go places that they could not go last year. I completely understand this. This is not a big surprise. But this is a lot of extra money that is being spent, right? $1,000 a month, $765 a month extra. It's a lot of money. Spending that extra money is sometimes just making a short-term decision. And we've talked before about short-termism, short-term decisions, right? Most of the time, short-term decisions are not going to get you where you want to go financially. Ultimately, we need to be making long-term decisions. Now, I know it's very, very difficult to look past the present. It's very difficult to look past the near future when you're like, how can you know? How can you know what the pandemic is going to turn into from here on? We all thought, we were going to be locked down for a couple weeks and then this thing would be gone. Obviously, that's not the case, right? So how do you know what to expect in the future? How do you know what to plan for in the future? I understand all of those things, but something you must also understand is that you can't just go about life just saying, well, we don't know what's going to happen, so you might as well just do whatever you want to do today, right? That turns into a bunch of poor people, right? That turns into a bunch of people who have no money, and that is not what we ultimately want to do. I want you to go on trips. I want you to purchase the things that you need to purchase. I want you to do those great things, okay? But you need to be in the financial place in order to do so, okay? You don't need to be spending money that should be in your emergency savings on, going to, I don't know, the Bahamas, or I don't even know if you can go to the Bahamas right now, but going wherever you want to go, whatever trip you want to go to, right? I don't want you spending that money that should be going towards paying off your student loan debt or paying off your car note or your credit card. I don't want you spending that money just to go buy the nice bag that you've always wanted and that you're afraid that you're never going to get to buy because you don't know if you'll ever have the money again. I don't want that money going there because you're not ready. You are not ready to be in the place to purchase those things, to enjoy the luxuries, enjoy all of the wants, right? I know life is about more than money. 100% life is about more than money. And I want you to enjoy your life, okay? But everything in life is based on sacrifice. I've said this many, many, many times, but I just want to nail this home here. Everything in life is about sacrifice, okay? We either decide we want to sacrifice now or we sacrifice later in some way, okay? Typically, if you sacrifice now in a small way, then later on you can have way more in the way of the positive if you just put off some stuff today, okay? But if you just decide, okay, I want the reward today, then it makes for a longer lasting and a steeper type of sacrifice that you're going to have to make. Now, how may this work, right? Well, let's say you are investing money. Okay, if you invest early, small amounts, that can be better than somebody investing later and investing larger amounts than what you were investing. So they would have to sacrifice more just to get to the same place that you got to because you started at an earlier age. You sacrificed a little early on, and then it made for a good reward for you later that they would have to sacrifice more to get to the same thing. In a similar way, right, if you have, let's say, student loan debt, or let's say you're going to buy a car. Buying a car is a better example, okay? If you're going to go buy a car and you save up and buy the car in cash, yes, that's a big hit to your cash, big hit to your savings, and it's going to be a hard check to write, right? You're really going to feel that transaction if you buy a car in cash, okay? But if you finance the car, then the car is going to cost more over a longer period of time. So even though you're not paying a ton up front, right, you end up paying more over time and it's more costly to you. You're making payments on a depreciating asset, right? And that is a problem. That's where we don't want to get. We don't want to get to this place where we are, deferring payments on and we're just trying to do everything that we can right now to enjoy our lives and live our best life, so much so that we neglect the things that we should be doing that will allow us to get our lives on the right track, our financial lives specifically on the right track. Younger generations seem to be rushing to the door to get out and start living their lives again instead of making more disciplined decisions, including putting some money away just because they've been missing out for the last year and a half. Okay? I think it's a real thing. I mean, I'm 26 years old, just had a birthday last week, right? At 26 years old, the pandemic plays a very, very large part of my life. Right? In percentage terms, relative to somebody who's, 40, 50, 60 years old, right? The pandemic has played a larger part of our lives, and not just a larger part of our lives, but think about our adult lives. A very, very large percentage of that has been the coronavirus pandemic, right? So it's not something that we can just look past, and it's not something that is not going to impact our decision making, but we have to make good decisions in lieu of the fact that the coronavirus pandemic has happened. We still have to make good decisions and understand that just doing things in a haphazard way is not going to be the best way to get to where you want to get to. You need to live with some discipline. Okay. Of course you want to get out and live your life again. Of course you want to go and do things that you haven't done in a year and a half or more. I know you're itching to do so. I've been itching to do so in many ways too. But if you are doing so at the cost of your financial life, then it's going to hurt later on, and it's going to hurt really, really bad later on. And that's not what I want for you. Many Americans, they plan to spend even more in the weeks ahead as schools and offices reopen, largely due to commuting costs and new clothes. Roughly 1/3 of office workers are concerned that an in-person return or hybrid work settings will cause them a financial hit. Nearly half of parents of children in kindergarten through grade 12 also anticipate spending more this back-to-school season compared with 2020. Again, no surprise, because a lot of kids are actually going to school that didn't go to school last year, right? And almost as many plan to spend more on supplies than they did before the pandemic. Now, I don't know what this would, be about. I don't know why you'd spend more on supplies other than the cost of goods and services increasing via inflation. In fact, back-to-school sales in the U.S. are expected to grow 6.7% from 2019 and 5.5% from last year's COVID days, according to a forecast by MasterCard. However, the recent surge in COVID cases fueled by the Delta variant could upset these predictions. Already, in-person learning is in jeopardy at some schools, while many offices had delayed their return to work plans. As consumer spending picks up, savings falls, right? Again, no surprise. This is just natural, right? People do two things with their money. They either consume it in some way or they save it in some way, okay? And when you're not consuming, you're saving. When you're not saving, you're consuming. Okay, so if we're consuming more, then we're not saving near as much. Nearly half, or 48% of Americans, said that they saved less than $500 in the last 3 months, up from just 36% who said the same in April, Mass Mutual found. Now, I'm really interested in this particular stat. I wonder, right? Sometimes you hear these statistics and you wonder how specific they are. When it says that nearly half said they saved less than $500 in the last 3 months, I really want some context. I want to know, are you including, investing? Are you including retirement savings? Are you including all types of quote unquote savings that you could be doing, even though it may be in the way of an investment? If so, then that is a very, very negative number. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be saving large amounts of money if you already have an emergency fund set up and you're already putting money into your retirement accounts and investing for your future and all these different types of things, right? So if you just put less than $500 in a savings account over 3 months, I'm not going to be mad at you. But if your total savings was less than $500 over that 3-month period, then that's kind of sad, right? But that's up from just 36% who said the same in April. Right? So this number is actually getting better. And again, I wonder what all it takes into account. Now, the personal savings rate, which I talked about a little bit ago, how much people save as a percentage of their disposable income, hit a historic 33% last year, but now stands at a bit more than 9%. And kind of the rate that it was fluctuating around before it really spiked was around 7%. So we've fallen quite a bit from our highs. We knew we would, okay? But is this fall going to just take us back to where we were? Did we learn nothing? I've talked about this in an episode before. Did we learn nothing from the coronavirus pandemic? Did we not learn that we need money saved? Did we not learn that we need emergency funds? We need money setting aside. We need to not live on every single dollar that we bring in the house. We need to live on less than we make, okay? We need to make sure that that's a lesson that we take with us from the coronavirus pandemic, because if you lost your job and it's been financially hard since that occurred, maybe an emergency fund would have helped, okay? Maybe being out of debt would have helped. Maybe following some of the financial fundamental principles that I talk about on a day-to-day basis would have helped. So what I talk about is not impractical, right? These are very practical things, especially if you're afraid of having to deal with the same type of emergencies, the same type of thunderstorms, as some may say, because we say it's a rainy day fund, right? Some of the thunderstorms that life may throw at you. Now, no doubt, worries about the Delta variant surge could cause consumers to reverse course again. After all, the CDC recently called for vaccinated individuals to go back to wearing masks indoors to prevent COVID spread. The new guidance has already prompted consumers to rethink decisions about dining out, traveling, and making other purchases. But again, that's not impacting necessarily those numbers where they're spending a lot more than we did in 2020. We're spending a lot more. And I would like to see the comparison to 2019. Okay, that's something that this particular survey does not give us. It doesn't tell us exactly what was going on in 2019 in many cases. My guess would be that we're probably outspending 2019 in some way, shape, or form because a lot of individuals do have more money in their pocket because of stimulus, because of this, that, or the other, because they didn't spend money during the pandemic, so they have this money setting aside to actually spend now. Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised if we aren't, spending more since 2019. But at the same time, the fact that we're spending $1,000 more a month, that's such a stark contrast. That's such a difference in amount that I think it really should cause us to pause, right? We should really pause and think about exactly what we're doing with our money. And this really brings me to, what should you be doing with your money? Okay. If I'm sitting here telling you that maybe we shouldn't be spending an extra $1,000 a month as millennials and Gen Zers, what in the world should we be doing? Okay, let me tell you this. If you have an emergency fund, you're budgeting, you've got your household debt paid off other than your mortgage, you're investing actively for yourself, all those things are in place, and you want to spend an extra $1,000 a month because you've got it like that, then by all means, please be my guest. Spend some extra money. Do some things that you couldn't do in 2020, because I know we all have things that we wanted to do in 2020 that we just couldn't do, and maybe we still haven't done, right? So by all means, do those things. Spend a little more money, okay? But know where every dollar of that money is going, and know where it's coming from, and know that this is a one-time thing. This isn't something that we're going to get into the habit of spending $1,000 more a month because most Americans don't have $1,000 more a month. Yes, the pandemic really impacted the amount of money Americans did have saved, right? So I would guess that age-old statistic of Americans not being able to cover a $400 expense if it popped up, I bet those statistics have changed quite a bit over the course of the last year. Okay, but I also bet that a lot of that is flying out the window with Americans' ability to consume again. Okay, so if you have everything right, if everything's in the right position financially, you're doing all the right things, and you want to make some one-time purchases, you want to do some things one time because you're like, hey, I'm trying to live my life, I'm trying to enjoy my life, I'm trying to do the things that I want to do, by all means, go and do them. Okay, I'm not chastising you for wanting to do those things. But let me tell you, the vast majority of individuals in this survey, I guarantee you, are not in that place. The vast majority of these individuals, given that a lot of them are millennials and Gen Zs, just by the demographics, not making any type of moral judgment, the vast majority of these individuals don't have a lot of money in savings, have a lot of debt, right, are very young, and haven't built any good foundation financially for themselves. And so now they're making these, spur of the moment, short-term financial decisions, and they haven't even built for themselves the ability to think long-term. Okay. And if you're one of those people, then you should not be spending more money now. You should not be doing anything different financially than what I teach you in the financial action plan. Okay. You should be learning to budget, learning to know where every single dollar is going, learning to track your spending. Okay, because that's what I think is probably really dangerous about this big influx of spending over last year, is that a bunch of individuals who got used to not spending much money are now spending a lot of money. And if they're spending a lot of money, are they tracking it? Do they know where their money is going? And if you don't know where your money is going, then you're going to look around and wonder where it went later on. And if you make this a habit of spending this extra amount of money, then it's just going to continuously put you further and further in the red every single month. And that's not what we want. Okay, so we need to be budgeting. We need to be knowing where our income is coming from, how much we're expecting to pay out in the form of expenses every single month, and then what else we have to work with from there. But that extra that we have to work with isn't just extra that we can go and just spend on bags and trips and shoes and clothes. That's not what that's for. Okay, that extra that we have has to be allocated in a proper way. Okay, what you need to do, you need to follow the financial action plan. After I tell you to budget uniquely every single month, what I tell you to do is to have 1 month worth of expenses in an emergency fund. So save some money, put some money away if you don't have it there already. If you already have that there, fantastic. You have a month's worth of expenses. That kind of provides you a buffer where you can be like, okay, I have a little money here. I'm okay, but it's going to allow me to do some things in my financial life where I can actually build a foundation for myself and build up my financial life to the point where I can go and spend extra money and do extra things. So you want to be building up in that particular way. Start that emergency fund, 1 month of expenses. Then if you have an employer-sponsored retirement account that offers a match, by all means, go and get that match. But just the match and just in the employer-sponsored retirement account, like a 401k, a 403b, a TSP, anything like that, right? So by all means, go and do that. But then after that, we get to something that a bunch of individuals don't want to do, and they don't want to look in the face, and they're saying, oh, this is a waste of money. This is a waste of my time. Why would I dedicate so much time and money and effort to doing this thing when I don't know what's going to happen next? And, I want to go out and live my life, and that is paying off debt. If there's any better time to pay off debt than now, you tell me, okay? Is there any better time to pay off debt than when student loans aren't requiring you to pay? Is there any better time to pay off debt than when student loans and other types of debt are not charging you interest? Is there any better time to pay off debt when you can, refinance that debt down to lower rates? That way you can spend less on paying off the debt. There is no better time than now in the past 18 months to pay off debt. There is no better time. Okay? So paying off debt, what I tell you to do in the fourth part of the financial action plan, this is the primary time that if you have a job, you're making good income, and you have the money to do extra things that's left over and you're in debt, it should be allocated towards paying off your consumer debt. Everything but your mortgage should get paid off and should be done in the debt snowball method. And that debt snowball method is very, very simple. All that you're doing, you're going to line up all your debts from smallest amount to largest amount. Okay, you're going to make the minimum payments on every single one of those debts. And then any money that you have left over after you're making minimum payments on all of those debts, you put on the smallest debt until that debt's paid off. Okay, then you make minimum payments on everything except for the next smallest. And then you roll what you were doing on the smallest into the next smallest until it's paid off, and so on and so forth. And you get that snowball effect, that snowball rolling down the hill and growing effect. And you're able to build up momentum and pay off more debt that way. Don't do it in terms of interest rate. That's not going to be worth your time, because you can get really frustrated at the fact that you have some large amounts of debt that are at low interest rates and you just don't ever feel like you're going to be able to pay them off. So do the debt snowball method. Get your debt paid off, everything but a mortgage, whether or not you have a mortgage. If you don't have a mortgage, then don't go out and get one, okay, while you're paying off debt. Don't go out and get one until you get through the fifth part of the financial action plan. But if you do already have a mortgage, then that's fine. Keep living there, but don't go out and take out more mortgage debt in that particular time period when you're trying to get out of other types of debt. Then the fifth part of the financial action plan, one of the biggest things that the coronavirus pandemic taught us that we need to make sure that we have is a fully funded 4 to 6 months worth of expenses in an emergency fund. Okay? Think about if the coronavirus pandemic hit, you lose your job, or your business has to shut down for some period of time. Think about if you were to have 4 to 6 months of your household expenses in an emergency fund, in a savings account somewhere. Right? Think about how much easier the pandemic would have been. Think about how much better it would have been knowing that you have some money set aside. Think about how much less pain you would be in today, a year, 18 months later, relative to what may have been a reality in your life. Right? So having this set up, building this part of your financial foundation can be so pivotal. It can be a huge deal. And it can put you in a position where, hey, maybe something like the coronavirus pandemic is not going to hit again during our lifetime, but the likelihood is something will. Something will come that is going to set you back. Something will come that is going to cause you to have to come up with money that you didn't know that you need. Okay. And that's why having an emergency fund is so important. And that's why investing that emergency fund is not a good idea, because you want that money to be there. You want to have this money in a savings account or a money market account and just have it sitting there and have it ready in case something went wrong. And don't spend it on, new clothes, and don't spend it on bags, and don't spend it on new electronics or anything like that. Have that money in the emergency fund, leave it there. Okay. Don't get tired of having money set aside in savings. I know money burns a hole in a lot of our pockets, right? I know a lot of individuals that are like, I can save the money, but then after a while, I'm just like, that money's there. I have to spend it. Okay. And that's a mindset thing. That has to do with our mindset around money and the fact that for so long, we've been like, man, every dollar that I bring in, I spend. Every dollar that I bring in, I do what I want to do with that dollar. And that's just not smart. Okay. You have to have a plan for your dollar bills. You have to have a plan for your money. If you don't have a plan for your money, then your money will quickly get lost in the ether of, I wanted to buy this, or I wanted to eat out here, or I wanted to do this or that. It gets caught up in all the wants and not the needs, not the things that are going to actually build you a strong financial foundation. And then once you've built that emergency fund, you need to be investing for yourself. You need to be putting away a large percentage of your income in investments. Now, once you're at this point, once you're at this point where you're putting away at least 15% of your income into your investments, you're out of debt, you have an emergency fund, all these things, right? Then if you have money to spend, then spend it. If you have an extra $765 a month, by all means, go for it, right? But those other things need to be laid first. Okay, if you don't sacrifice and get those other things laid first, then you're going to end up in a position where you're not going to be able to spend $765 a month. Right? You're not going to be able to buy the things that you want to buy. You're going to steal from your future self. And I think a lot of times we don't think about things in this way. Okay. But just think about this. Let's say I have $100. Okay. And me and my family want to go out to eat, and we want to go out to eat somewhere nice. Okay. And you go out to eat somewhere and you spend $100. Okay. Because that's what you wanted to do. And so you went out and you did it. Okay. Well, what if at the same time there's something that you've been wanting, right? Or something that was a bit more necessary for your life that also cost $100. Okay. Maybe you could have done something to buy a new part for your car that your car needed, or done something to do something around the house that was needed, something that was more pressing that also cost $100. And yet in the short term, you decided you were going to go out to eat on that $100. Okay. What happens later on when that part of the car breaks and it becomes more expensive than $100? What happens when your lack of being proactive with that money turns into you having to shell out more and more just to fix the fact that you didn't do something in a proactive manner before? Okay, our wants in the short term, our short-term decision making is going to be our downfall. Okay, and I'm not talking about just a collective us. I'm talking about every individual. Right, short-term thinking gets you nowhere. Short-term thinking gets you to a place where you have no money. It gets you to a place where you have a lot of debt. It gets you to a place where you're out here spending $765 a month or $1,016 a month, and it's all in the name of YOLO. It's all in the name of living your best life. It's all in the name of just trying to look good and keep up with the Joneses. Right? It's not worth it. Right? It's not worth it to be spending in this way if you don't have the money to spend in this way. And the reason that I'm talking like this is because I know that most of the individuals who are spending in this way don't have the money to be spending in this way. I'm really interested to know how many of these individuals are spending this type of money and this isn't their money. That maybe it's a credit card, right? Maybe they're borrowing money in some way, shape, or form, that this isn't actual cash that they're spending. And I would be willing to guess that a lot of this is on credit. I would be willing to guess that a lot of this is not their own money. Okay. But even if it is, it needs to be their money in a way that they've already built a good financial foundation, and then they can spend money how they want to spend money. I want you to spend money. Okay. I want to leave you with this today. I want you to spend money, and I want you to give money, and I want you to save money. Okay. I want you to be doing those things. I want you to be financially balanced, but I want you to spend money, and I want you to enjoy the money that you have. I absolutely do. I think people think I'm a killjoy. They think that I don't want them to go out and do fun things and have a good time. But you have to understand that just like everything else in life, it has to be worked for, right? You may want to make $100,000 a year, but if you didn't put the work in to get the right education or to do the right things to get to the point, or work really hard and work your way up the ladder to get to the point where you can make $100,000 a year, then you don't deserve to just get $100,000 a year. There are people who have worked hard to get out of debt, to have emergency funds, to invest for themselves, to do all these different things, right? Just to get to the point where they can spend this amount of money and it not hurt them, okay? But if you're not there, you can still look like you're there. You don't have to tell anybody that it's not your money, but underneath it's hurting. Underneath, you don't make $100,000 a year. Underneath, you aren't putting the work in. You aren't getting to the place that you should be getting to. And some of you may be, but I'm saying I know that some of you are not. Okay? So I want to motivate you. Take the right steps. Do the fundamental things, right? Follow the financial action plan. That's what I put it out there for you for. That way you can follow this plan and you can build a financial foundation and get to the point where you can spend this amount of money and it's no problem, okay? So it's good for the economy that Americans are spending. I'm glad that they are. But I hope if you're one of these individuals that are out there spending a lot more money than you did last year, that you don't find yourself in a bigger financial hole just because you wanted to go out and do all of these things on a whim via short-term thinking. Think long-term, have a plan for your money, and things will turn out a lot better for you. So thanks for watching this episode. If you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just DM me on any of the major social media sites and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching sessions, and you and I can begin working together, pushing towards long-term financial goals that we have for you, and then ultimately pushing you to long-term financial freedom, which is what I hope for every individual who watches or listens to this show on a day-to-day basis. So tune in tomorrow as I continue talking about personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.